Hi, I'm Hannah Lamb, and we're here in my exhibition at the Knitting and Stitching Show. The exhibition is called Home Stroke Work, and it's kind of a body of work that I created before, during and after lockdown. And some of the work in the exhibition actually focuses on my experience of being at home, working at home, and the kind of messiness of that process. So in the exhibition there are a sequence of different pieces. Here we're standing next to a piece of work that's called Duty of Care, and this piece of work is really about how organisations sometimes pay lip service only to kind of the duty of care and looking after their staff, the people that work for them, and sort of some of the damaging processes in being employed sometimes. So the piece is made using an old apron, and it's an old linen apron, it's indigo dyed, and it has lots of darning. In fact, it had some darning on it when I bought it, but I've added to that, and I've layered darning and printing and patching, and it's sort of a bit of a futile process because it's so worn, and that's part of what I wanted to do, is to explore a kind of almost a unnecessary approach to darning and mending. So there are a sequence of aprons that I'm showing here, and they all have slightly different stories that I'm trying to tell. So there's another piece just here called Work-Life Balance, and that's combined of a group of different imagery. I've used scissors here to kind of imply work, but it's surrounded by stitches, and those stitches are really repetitive, so it's that repetition of work. Sometimes work can be quite tedious, and sort of the merging of work and life, and how we kind of try and create those boundaries. So in the exhibition there is a whole sequence of little houses, little house shapes, and that body of work is kind of a little bit of an obsession really on that shape and that idea of home and kind of what it means to us. And sometimes, particularly during the lockdown period, home could be a real place of safety, but it was also a trap and a place where we can't escape ourselves. So during lockdown, or sort of the latter stages of lockdown, I found myself looking out of the window while I was doing Zoom calls and working, and looking out at this shape, which was actually the beginnings of my studio. It's our old garage, and it was being converted into a studio for me. So I was kind of obsessing on that shape and sort of a room of my own, a room to be creative in. So there's a whole collection of different ideas and emotions that are wrapped up in those pieces. And some of the pieces are very pretty, and I was deliberately using a lot of domestic materials, so there are things that are second-hand materials, there are lots of scraps, so it's all using materials that I already had, offcuts of things. And in fact, the three-dimensional houses are made, they've got wood inside them, and they're literally the offcuts from building my studio. So there's kind of a zero waste approach to those pieces. Some of them have also got quite destructive kind of processes wrapped up in them. So there's kind of ink applied to fabric. It's quite brutal in some ways. So there are some positives and there are some negatives, and they're all very much muddled up together, which is really indicative of how I was feeling. And some of the pieces are quite crude almost, you could say, and that's very deliberate in terms of my working process. But there are some very beautiful fabrics in there. There are the kind of chintzy fabrics, and actually there's some beautiful vintage scraps in there. So there's a whole mixture of different materials, and quilting and stitching plays a really important part in that, and in a very intuitive way, really. The large piece in the centre of the exhibition is called Deconstructed Cloth. That piece was made specifically originally for an exhibition with the 62 group of textile artists, and the exhibition was based at Sunnybank Mill in Farsley, which is near Leeds. And the piece of work was made in response to the mill, and also to the kind of wider textile industry of West Yorkshire. So I'm based, as I said, near Bradford in West Yorkshire, and I really love that area. I love the heritage of textile production in that area. It's everywhere that you look. So the textile industry in Bradford and Leeds and the whole of West Yorkshire, there are these beautiful little gems of companies that are producing really specialist materials and doing really specialist processes, and they're fascinating. They're really interesting to visit, and I've been fortunate to go and visit some of those companies. So the piece of work is sort of really representing and quite directly representing the rise and fall of the textile industry. Sunnybank Mill is a former textile mill, so it's now just a building, if you like, and with really successful businesses and a wonderful art gallery there. But it really represents that rise and fall in fortunes that the textile industry has always been prey to. But it also captures something of the sort of rebirth of the textile industry. So the wooden bobbin is holding a new fabric that has been constructed from threads that have been withdrawn from the main piece of fabric. So the main structure is a mixed fibre fabric that's been printed with cyanotype, and there are layers of different print processes in there that capture the marks of the buildings, the surfaces of the mill floor, and in fact in its original setting the bottom edge, the brown edge at the end of the fabric, mimicked the floor beautifully. So the marks of the old mill floor are actually blended with the piece of work, like it was emerging out of that surface. So as well as being a textile artist, I'm also a lecturer. I teach at Bradford School of Art in West Yorkshire, and I run the foundation degree in textile practice. So I published a book called Poetic Cloth, and Poetic Cloth is really, I suppose, the life according to Hannah Lamb. It's a book about how I view textile as a language of material, and it uses some of the processes that I work with in my own practice. It's not a project book, but it talks about my approaches to making and thinking about materials. I hope you've enjoyed looking at my work and viewing my exhibition. Thank you.